There's an aspect of video games that I feel like is not talked about enough these days, which is replayability. Can you beat this game again and again and again, and it stays fresh, it stays fun, it stays fast? Well, Metal Hellsinger has got to be one of the most replayable games I've ever experienced in my life. I have actually run through this game completely start to finish multiple times on multiple difficulties, trying to set the highest score possible because it is straight up that addictive. But let's talk about why. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. So what is Metal Hellsinger? A lot of times when people discuss classic first-person shooters like Doom, an aspect of it that's often overlooked is the soundtrack. I mean, think about it. Doom or Doom Eternal. These are obviously the newer Doom games. They have these crazy metal tunes blasting in the background as you rip and tear. Well, Metal Hellsinger, it sort of leans into that and says, what if we do go to hell, but we jam out as we tear those demons bit from bit? So Metal Hellsinger is a rhythm shooter. What you do in this game is that we are playing as this creature called the Unknown. She's a person that went to hell long, long ago, and of course to torture her, they took away what she loved most, the ability to sing. Now, in order to get her revenge, she's decided to kill everybody in hell and get back her voice. Now, doing this, she's decided to sing with guns. Even though she may not have a typical voice, she certainly sings through her actions, through her deeds, and through her damage. So this is a rhythm shooter, which means that across the center of the screen, you're going to notice that there's these little lines that keep moving towards the target reticule. If you manage to pull the trigger right as that lines up, you deal a lot of extra damage. Now, technically, you can shoot whenever you want. You do have infinite ammo. The game itself is actually relatively easy, no matter what difficulty you play on. The fun of this game comes from trying to get the highest score possible. Every time you pull the trigger and stay on tempo, it increases your multiplier. You see that big number at the top of the screen? That's called Fury. Now, as this increases, it actually does two things at once. It increases the multiplier to your points, and it increases the multiplier to your damage, which means that if you shoot somebody offbeat, it may do like 100 damage. But if you stay on tempo and keep firing pistol shot after pistol shot exactly to the beat, you can sometimes deal stuff like 10,000 damage with each individual shot, which can roast even the toughest enemies in the depths of hell. But why is this just so fun? Honestly, this reminds me so much of Guitar Hero inside of Doom. You're still going to be strafing, you're still going to be cycling different weapons, you're still going to be trying to stun somebody and rip out their heart in a dramatic animation, but additionally, it has that addictive nature of Guitar Hero. It reminds me of back in the day, we used to have these Guitar Hero parties where a bunch of friends would go to one of our houses, either my place or my buddy's place, and we would just sit there sometimes for 8 hours playing random songs over and over and over again as a group, trying to get the highest scores possible. Metal Hellsinger, it feels like that. You really compete to have the best score possible. It really feels good to manage to get every shot, to perfect your run, to beat something just a little bit faster. Now, during the course of this game, each level ends with a short boss fight, and then it takes you to the next layer of hell. Now, each of these different layers are very, very different cosmetically. They have slightly different layouts, slightly different pitfalls, cool background stuff like big creepy gears or exploding volcanoes or icy mountains and stuff like that. But each of the areas is just jam-packed with monsters. But I will say, this game is certainly very, very easy once you get used to it. It took me a while to sort of adapt to the tempo because I don't really listen to a lot of music. I'm not really a musical person. I mean, here they're gamifying it, but typically I'm not sitting around, definitely not listening to metal music or anything like that. But once you sort of adapt, once you sort of sync the metronome in your mind to the tempo of shoot, 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 it feels fantastic. So there are 4 different guns technically in this game, but then there's also a skull, which essentially works as your pistol, and a sword. What's kind of strange though is that everything kind of feels like it does the same amount of damage once you start amping things up. Once your fury multiplier increases, you're doing so many thousands of damage. I don't think it really matters which gun you choose. It kind of comes down to just personal tastes. Like the shotgun only has 8 rounds in it, but it does a good spray. It does a wide damage area, so you may want that if it's a bunch of weak enemies. The crossbow only has 2 bullets in it, but it explodes on impact, so it really helps you thin the herd or set off like these explosive crystals to weaken a big group simultaneously. Now this does bring me to the ultimate attacks. So in each of these missions, before you go into each of the layers of hell, you select 2 of the 4 guns that you want to bring with you. Now this is more than just your typical shoot. You also have to worry about the special abilities of it. Like the crossbow, when you deal enough damage and stay on tempo, it actually creates a tiny black hole. I like the pistols the most. These are by far my favorite gun in the entire game. They let you create a temporary shadow clone that shoots bullets with you. The sword makes you be able to just go off tempo and slash people pretty much infinitely. I think it's interesting that each of the weapons really is just whatever you want. It creates this extra incentive to sort of experiment and try out each of the different guns, because once you sort of find out your personal tastes, you may want a main weapon to try and take out the little tiny demons, or a bigger weapon because it has a nice special attack. I kind of enjoy this, but I will say that once you sort of adapt, I think you're going to stop using any of the other guns. Like once I got really good at the pistol timing specifically, and the active reload, if you actually reload to the beat as well, it'll even reload faster. Once I got acclimated, I was setting so many high scores with the pistol, I didn't really want to use anything else, even though I do think the sword is incredibly good as well, and these weird like floating blade things can be incredibly dangerous. Once you adapt to your rhythm and its rhythm simultaneously, you're not really going to want to test out the other stuff. There is also just the tiniest bit of customization. After you've beaten each particular layer of hell, you unlock these 3 extra bonus missions, which let you get these things called sigils. These will do things like make it where as you have less health, you'll deal more damage, or maybe you can get something where every time you hit on beat, you build up your special faster, or you maintain your current combo better even if you get hit. These sigils are pretty cool. Honestly, the sigil missions are very easy. Usually they take about 90 seconds, so you might as well do all the side quests just because it's a nice little bonus that lets you tinker with your character. But now let's talk about the downsides. I do think the biggest problem I have with this game is that you fight the same boss again and again and again. This is very strange. Throughout all this, you fight the same boss like 10 times. It's like a big set of bat skeleton wing things. Sometimes she shoots lasers, sometimes she has more minions, but it is just the same fight at the end of every single level. She just gets slightly harder and does a little bit of different gimmicks, which gets a little bit boring after the 5th, 6th, or 10th time you see her. And the other small problem I have with this game is that I do feel like I wish it had a little bit more leniency to the timing of these combo systems. I mean, I'll be honest, I beat the entire game completely sucking first before I managed to actually get even halfway decent at it. Like, I finished the whole game in about 6 hours, and then I went back and started playing it on a harder difficulty, and finally I'd kind of practiced the rhythm. It feels like this game has a very steep learning curve if you're not super musically inclined. I do feel like this is aimed for a very specific demographic, which is people who already love metal, who already love Doom, who already played a bunch of Guitar Hero. That's the overlap. If you've played everything simultaneously, then this is going to be the melting pot. This is going to be the great Zen garden of chaos. For somebody like me who does not have a lot of experience with tempo and rhythm and keeping the beat and stuff, it was obviously a bit of a struggle to finally acclimate, which isn't really a complaint so much as it is a little bit of a warning that if you can't keep a metronome in your head, you're not going to be able to keep the beat. This game is interesting. It does interesting stuff. Like, even at one point when I was playing it, I noticed that it took over my keyboard's lighting system to make it look like the fires of hell. I mean, I actually had to film it. I was in such shock. This is a very immersive game with a very good soundtrack. I like that the higher your fury goes, the music gets more intense and puts in more orchestral tracks and stuff like that. It's an interesting game. Okay, so we've heard a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, but let's go over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Metal Hellsinger an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming of the depths of hell. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.